Jeff and Joe's Puerto Rican Kitchen, where we show you how to make easy, authentic Puerto Rican recipes.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on our third episode. In our first two episodes, we made rice and beans, tostones, and mofongo. Now this is a great start to a complete Puerto Rican meal, but we're not there yet. Jamari, what are we missing?
Piña coladas.
Well, not what I had in mind, but... Cheers!
Cheers!
Better?
Much better. So where were we?
Oh yeah, so we're making a complete Puerto Rican meal. What are we still missing?
Well, let's see. We have our yummy rice and beans, then we have our plantain side dishes, and let's not forget this tasty piña colada. And then the next thing we should show everyone how to make, it's meat.
Exactly. And there are so many great Puerto Rican meat dishes to pair with rice and beans. But today we're going to show you a truly classic dish known as bistec. Now if you're thinking, that word sounds familiar, you might be onto something. Bistec is just a loan word from the English word beefsteak that got incorporated into the vocabulary over the years as a term that means beef that's been thinly sliced against the grain of the meat.
Now, regardless of the word's origins, Puerto Ricans have made bistec into something uniquely ours. We take this thinly sliced beef and then we marinate it into a delicious mixture of onions, garlic, olive oil, and spices, and then simmer it until tender.
Now, we're all about showing you how to make easy recipes, but this one really takes the cake. All you do is combine the ingredients, let it marinate, then dump it into a pot and simmer it until it's tender. That's it. So let's get cooking!
How you select and prepare your meat has a huge impact on the ultimate results of your bistec. The first thing you'll need to decide is what cut of beef you want to use. In preparation for this video, Jamari called a handful of butcherers in Puerto Rico to ask them what their preferred cut was. The general answer was that people tended to prefer leaner cuts of beef like the rounds or the sirloins when making bistec, although they also said it wasn't uncommon to use chuck. In this video, I've decided to use bottom sirloin, which is the same cut of beef you would get your tri-tip steak from. This is a great lean cut of meat, which is still really tender if you prepare it correctly. Whatever cut of meat you end up choosing, have your butcher slice it thinly against the grain of the meat. How thin you get it sliced is a matter of personal preference, but generally between 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch is a good place to start. The thinner you cut your meat, the more tender it will be at the end. Jamari likes her bistec really tender, so I had my butcher cut the meat 1/8 of an inch thick. Once you have your meat, you might need to cut it into manageable sizes. As a rule of thumb, I'd say that anything bigger than your hand is likely too big. Here, I'm taking pieces that were probably 12 inches long and cutting them in half, ending up with pieces about 4 by 6 inches. Once you've got your meat cut to the right size, you want to tenderize it. There are a couple ways to do this, and I'm going to show you 3. First, we'll use a needle tenderizer. This device is just what it sounds like. It has a bunch of needles that you punch into the meat, breaking up the muscle fibers, resulting in a tenderer piece of meat. When using the needle tenderizer, I like to first work the meat from side to side, then flip the tenderizer 90 degrees and work the meat top to bottom. Then flip the meat over and repeat on the other side. A second way to tenderize your meat is with a fork. This is basically the same thing as the needle tenderizer, just a little slower since you cover less surface area at a time. But the strategy is the same. Repeatedly pierce your meat with the fork, breaking up the muscle fibers as you work across both surfaces of the meat. Finally, you can use a rolling pin to tenderize your meat. Take your meat, lay it on a flat surface and cover it with plastic wrap or wax paper. Then, give it a couple good whacks with your rolling pin. The physical impact from the rolling pin breaks up the muscle fibers and has the added bonus of relieving any pent-up frustration you might have from a long day at work. As with the other methods, you'll get a better result if you work both sides of the meat. With your meat ready, you can begin preparing your marinade. Let's start with the onions. Cut off both ends of the onion, then slice it in half and peel off the uppermost layer. I'm using yellow Spanish onions, but you can use different varieties depending on your preferences. You'll cook these onions for plenty of time, so you shouldn't have any oniony flavor at the end. But if you're particularly sensitive to it, consider using a sweeter onion like a Vidalia. Once your onion is peeled, go ahead and slice it between 1/4 and 1/2 inch thick. Again, the thickness is really a matter of preference, as it will determine how defined the onion slices are in the end product. As I'm slicing these onions, you'll notice that I'm adding them right into a gallon-sized plastic bag. This is where we'll marinate the meat, so no need to get anything else dirty. When you finish with the onions, go ahead and chop your garlic. No need to get it too fine, as it will start to fall apart when you cook it anyways. I like to crush my garlic first, then just chop it loosely. Once chopped, go ahead and add it to your onions. Finally, prepare your oregano. Peel the leaves off of the stems and then give them a loose chop. If you don't have fresh oregano, you can definitely use dried oregano. Just use about 1/3 to 1/2 of the volume, as the dried herbs are more potent. With your veggies cut, you're now ready to combine everything. First, add your tenderized meat to the onions. Try to keep your pieces of meat separate so that the marinade will cover them all evenly. Then, add your adobo, your peppercorns, your white vinegar, and your olive oil. Once everything's in the bag, seal it and give it a real good shake. Once mixed, throw it into your fridge for anywhere between 45 minutes and 4 hours. I've found that any less than 45 minutes and you don't get enough flavor in your meat, but any more than 4 hours and the vinegar starts to give your meat an off texture. After your meat is sufficiently marinated, pull it out and get it into your pot. The meat needs the most heat, so I like to put it in your pot first. This way, it'll be closest to the heat source, but it also ensures that it will stay submerged as you simmer it, soaking up all of the flavors from the liquids. Once you've layered in the meat, go ahead and dump the rest of the contents of the bag on top of the meat. Then, add a little water to the pot, just enough to cover the meat. Go ahead and put your lid on and turn your stove on medium. Cook the meat until the liquid starts to boil. Once it's boiling, reduce the heat to low and let it cook for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how tender you want the meat. Check the bistec from time to time while it's simmering. You want to make sure there's always water in the bottom of the pan, or else your meat might burn. If the water level gets low, just add a little bit more water and maybe turn down the heat. Once the meat is tender to your liking, it's ready to eat. For thinner slices of meat, this can be fairly quick. For thicker pieces of meat, or meat that has more connective tissue, it might take a little bit longer. So just go ahead and try your meat from time to time. It'll be done when you can easily tear the pieces apart with your finger. Once your meat is tender, it's ready to serve. Now, while you could definitely just chow down on a bowl of bistec by itself, it's most traditionally served over rice. Don't forget to add some of the reduced onions and sauce on top to really bring out all of the flavors in the meat. Then, garnish it with a little fresh chopped oregano to top it all off.
There you have it, another easy Puerto Rican recipe that you can make at home. Let's see how it is and dig in.
I can't wait.
Oh,
It's really good. It's very tender. I can just, cut it with my fork. Don't need a knife. How long did we end up cooking this one for?
so we cooked this for about an hour.
Okay.
Go a little longer, a little less longer, depending on how you like it.
Yeah, no, this is really good. Another thing that you guys can check out at home is what about a crock pot?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, actually. I mean, we did it the more traditional way on the stove, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't do it in a crock pot. You just dump this stuff into the crock pot and turn it on for a couple hours and slow cook it. A great way to get a meal ready when you come home from work.
Yeah. If you guys try it, let us know in the comments how it goes for you. And also just let us know how you're enjoying our channel, how you're enjoying the recipes, and if there's anything else we can do to make you even more excited about Puerto Rican food.
And so until next time, this has been Jeff and Joe's Puerto Rican Kitchen.
See you on the next episode.